And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Great to be here. Another Tuesday night doing the Hair Loss Show. Want to welcome everyone who's especially new to the show and has no idea who I am, why I'm here, why my sidekick is going to come on the air in a second. And if you've just stumbled onto this broadcast either through iTunes or through Ustream or through the guys from Queens Network, or if you're listening on iHeartRadio now and on iTunes Radio, I'm a guy that does a show about hair loss. If you're not interested in hair loss, you can turn the dial, or you can stop watching if you're watching it. But the sad fact is that just about every household around the world knows or has dealt with hair loss in some way, shape, or form. Either they have a family member who's dealing with hair loss, someone's husband is dealing with hair loss, someone's wife is dealing with hair loss, someone's kids are dealing with hair loss. It is a silent epidemic of enormous biblical proportions. And, you know, when I first got on the radio more than 20 years ago, or about 20 years ago now, I was told by everybody in radio that this is too much of a niche market, that there's not enough people who would be willing to listen to a program about hair loss. And how are you going to talk about hair loss week in and week out? And at the time, I initially started with 30 minutes on the air, and then an hour, and then 2 hours. But at the time, it was only a 30-minute show. How are you going to keep this going? And all I said was, everyone in this room is losing their hair. How can you not see that this is a problem that people would be interested in? No one got it. Well, fast forward 20 years, we're still here, talking about the same thing week in and week out, how to deal with life as hair loss sufferers. And if you're watching the program and you're seeing me for the first time, yes, I'm an older dude who looks like he has a relatively full head of hair. But I've been lucky enough to make the right moves, to make the right decisions, to not go under the knife when I didn't need to do well on FDA-approved medication that slowed the progression of my hair loss. I use makeup for the back of my hair. I know that's freaking the new guys out and the new, women who are just finding this out. I'm sorry if I'm disappointing you. But I do what I have to do, and I've been lucky enough to maintain a full-ish looking head of hair. And I started to lose my hair at the age of 21. So for everyone who's new, and I'm saying, keep repeating that because we are back on iHeartRadio. If you're listening to this broadcast on iHeartRadio, we are not selling anything. This is not an infomercial. So don't worry about it. I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, the author of the two most read books in the world on the subject of the prevention and treatment of hair loss. Also the founder of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. And honestly, this is the only, which was a weekend broadcast, that has ever gotten national and international attention. So everyone who is in radio, who when I first came in, walked through your doors, who are now contacting me for a job because you're out of work, I know that's a real asshole thing to say, but the truth is, I told you so. This is an important subject for people. This is a place where we are allowed to speak about something that society does not allow us to talk about. On that note, let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. Guys and ladies, feel free to call in if you have any questions or concerns about your hair loss, if you just need to vent, if you are considering any product or service to treat your hair loss. Most of them are complete bullshit. If you have surgery scheduled for tomorrow, let us know who your surgeon is. And we'll be honest with you. We'll say, you know what? You might want to leave that money on the table because it may not work out for you. 888-659-3727. Let's say hi to my trusty sidekick, live from Vancouver, British Columbia. It's the original hair transplant mentor, Joe Tillman. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good. How about you?
You know, I can't complain, man.
Right on. I like hearing that.
I can't complain. I actually have a little story. Guys, I'll take your call in a second. And this, I think, is important for everybody who says that they can't do something or they don't understand how something is done or how difficult things are, whether it's, you know, dealing with your health issues in life or business or whatever. I saw a neighbor who I haven't seen in a long time. I recently lost, it was a slow process, but about 20 pounds. He hasn't seen me in a while. And he's like, he goes, dude, you look incredible. How did you lose so much weight? I'm like, well, it was only really 20 pounds. But I said, I just decided to, not eat as much and to exercise a little bit more.
Replace my food intake with more alcohol.
Right. Right. Well, actually,
that's the way I do it.
I replace it with less hard alcohol so I make better decisions.
Good one.
Food choices. So, but this guy is looking at me like I split the effing atom. And I get this all the time. I was contacted actually through LinkedIn the other day by a venture capitalist who, I'm not going to say exactly what he's doing, but he has a firm. He wants to learn more about, what I do here. And even just the basic question, which seems, it's not saying this guy's not intelligent. Obviously, he's a successful person. But even, being an entrepreneur, whether it's a broadcasting entrepreneur or what I do and what we do in this industry, people just, it's mind-blowing to them that we've been able to accomplish and I've been able to accomplish what I have and what I've done. And to me, it's just like, all you do is you put in the work, just like losing weight. And you take the steps and you keep doing it and you keep doing it and you become successful. How do you drive the car that you drive? Well, I figured this is how much I'm going to need to make in order to drive this car. So I'm going to choose to figure out a way to make that. Now, I know maybe it's not common sense to people. And maybe it's just the way that we're brought up to kind of just like follow the system and to, walk around like sheep our entire lives. I guess that's why school is scheduled from like 9 till 3 with a lunch break. And then after you're out of school, you have to only stay for another 2 hours and work, but it's the same type of thing.
Yeah.
So when you tell somebody that you've actually taken some very simple steps to become successful at whatever you've done, they still can't get it. It's like, this guy's like, I've been trying to lose this last 10 pounds for, 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just lose it? Why don't you just do it?
For some reason, people have a tough time taking that first step. They can sit there and they can, they can hem and haw about it. They can criticize others about it, about their own lack of action. They can, even have it in their idea that they don't need to, even though they do. I mean, there's so many barriers that we put in front of ourselves to actually get started. It's mind-blowing. And it's almost like you said your neighbor's looking at you like you split the atom. That's the way it feels when you actually kick yourself in gear to do something. It feels like you just discovered how to split the atom.
Right. But and I understand that. But, I always kind of sensed and realized the reason I was fatter or I got heavy is because I had chosen not to take the best care of myself. Like I knew it wasn't like, oh, I'm so depressed, I'm fat, or I'm drinking too much, or whatever. I consciously was doing that.
Yeah.
I was aware of it. It's like, okay, I take off my shirt. I am fatter than I would like to be. That's it. I accept it. When I was poor, I'm like, okay, unfortunately, I was put into these circumstances, but the reason I'm still poor at whatever, 19 or 20, however old I was, is because I hadn't yet figured out that I just have to work a little harder and I won't be poor. I don't know. I mean, it just seems to me, I know that it's not common sense for everybody, but it just seems like they're very simple steps. You don't want to be poor? Don't be poor. You don't have to be poor.
You don't have to be, but the problem is that we're living in a immediate satisfaction society, right? We're living in a society where we can pick up the phone and have anything we want delivered to our door the same day.
Right.
We want other people to do things for us. I was actually speaking to a physiotherapist friend of mine, and we were discussing a treatment called IMS, intramuscular stimulation, where they insert needles into your musculature, certain areas, to release knots and to help loosen up your musculature for sports, activities, things like that. And he was telling me how many people come in expecting it to be like a one-time thing, or maybe 2 visits max, where the treatments they actually create a phenomenal short-term improvement and even eradication of some certain issues, but they come back simply because it's just the nature of things. But people get upset and expect it to be done after 1 or 2 procedures when it can actually take 10 or 15. And that's just one example. People expect, and I think it also has to do with the Tony Robbins of the world, and not specifically him, but that kind of approach, buy my package and learn how to do something. And it's always
but here's the thing. He will say, and again, and others of his ilk will say, buy my stuff and learn how to do something. But he also makes it clear that you have to do it.
He makes it clear, but
he knows that no one's going to.
Like late night infomercial type of presentations, because the other guys don't.
Right.
I mean, they may say you got to work at it, but they make it seem so easy in the half-hour infomercial. So it's kind of contradictory, if you ask me. It's like, if it's really going to be difficult, you really need to drive it home. But if you do, no one's going to buy your product.
Well, here's the thing.
Because in the end, it's promising a quick fix.
If you were selling something or doing seminars to teach people how to, become better in their world and whatever it is, and if you actually look back and you kind of figure out what did these guys actually do before they did this, you realize that most of these guys didn't do much before they did this. They just happen to be extremely charismatic, and this is the way they've become successful, which is amazing.
It is.
Tony Robbins is he actually inspired me. He inspired me when I wrote my first book. I read what was the book? Something Giants.
How to Be Tall.
Giant Within or something like that.
Yeah.
And
something like that.
That's before he had, he got his hair fixed and all that stuff, and he had this really, like this odd thing happening years ago. Not saying that he had any hair loss, but he did, he got like a makeover. He looks great.
Yeah.
And it was inspirational. I was like, fuck, this fucker can write a book. Excuse me, iHeartRadio. And he can motivate all those people. I could do the same thing.
But the thing with guys like him, and maybe not him specifically, but a lot of these guys, you made a great point. It's like, what did they do before they became a motivational speaker? Essentially is what you're talking about. What these guys are doing is, like you said, they're charismatic, and that's kind of the only thing they really got going for them, because they're not saying anything new. They're just regurgitating existing information that's been around forever, but with their own twist on it.
Well, it's like I meet a lot of life coaches here in Los Angeles. And, someone tells me they're a life coach. I'm just like, dude, I got to bow down to you, man. Good for you. Good for you. You somehow are able to make a living giving these poor suckers hope.
Last time I met a life coach, I almost couldn't keep a straight face. I'm sorry. because I saw what he was doing. Anyway, those are special people. Not that it's not legitimate.
Right.
God bless you.
There are people who actually
There are some
can
great
help
life
you.
coaches out there.
Yeah, but I would say that when there's a guy that's like 30 years old and tells me he's a life coach, I'm like, dude, you haven't even lived yet.
That was the situation I was in. He might have been 30.
Yeah.
And he's a life coach and lifestyle coach. So.
Yeah. Well, let's take a phone call. Unless you are living in a much nicer home than I am, driving a better car, have a hotter wife, and all these things, you can't teach me anything, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think it's a ploy to actually learn from you.
Hey, man. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Hey, this is Poya calling again. I called last week. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, Poya.
What? I mean, how many Poyas call the show?
Exactly. So I just wanted to give a quick update. I don't have much to say, obviously. I've only been on doing this for 1 week, but I had one question. So my update is I have gone on the finasteride.
Okay.
And I'm happy to report I have had zero side effects so far.
That's great. Again,
scary.
right away, you're already thinking negative so far.
No, I'm not thinking negative. I'm just saying that I'm not too optimistic about it.
Good.
I'm saying zero side effects, but doesn't mean that. I'm just saying.
Look, dude, I'm glad you're not having side effects. That's all that's important.
Yeah.
So I'm just busting
yeah.
your balls a little bit. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, but the other question I had was my doctor had prescribed me to take minoxidil, the Rogaine chemical. I wanted to know your opinion on that. Whether I should wait to see what the effect of finasteride is before jumping on that.
Well, I'll give you my opinion. And again, I'm not a physician, and I'll let Joe obviously give you his opinion. But the truth is, I think your instinct is correct. It doesn't make much sense to me to start taking two medications that are supposed to do the same thing, even though they're acting in different ways. You want to make sure that what you're taking is actually doing what you want it to do. So you started finasteride. You have no side effects, as you said, so far, which is terrific. And you want to see and give it some time to see if it starts to reverse the miniaturization process, maybe regrow some hair, and see if, in fact, it's working for you. Then later on, at some point, if you feel like you really need an extra boost, then you might want to add minoxidil. In my view, minoxidil really acts more as a Band-Aid, and it can, it can give you a few extra years of maintaining your hair in an anagen phase. And I did use it even before it was approved by the FDA for hair loss, and it had to be compounded by a compounding pharmacy, and it was a whole thing. It helped me back before finasteride was available. But I always tell guys, and again, I'm not a physician, if you've started finasteride, you're on it now, stick with that for a while and give it some time, minimum 6 months before you add anything into your regimen.
Okay.
And Joe, I'm going to let you either concur or tell me I'm out of my mind.
You're out of your mind, but I still concur.
Okay, that's fair.
No, I think it's really important to really avoid the urge to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at the problem from the beginning, because you just don't know what's going to work. And by staggering it over a period of time, you can come to a more educated and informed decision about what is working, what isn't working, or anywhere in between, and make informed decisions on what you want to keep in your regimen. It's tempting, I know.
Well, what happens, a lot of guys, and that's the typical physician protocol. They'll say, you know what, this works synergistically, which I guess it does. So you might as well try to hit it all at once. And it's kind of like, if you don't need to, hit something with a bomb, then why do it? And also, you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's working. So you're kind of stuck using both medications without really knowing which is working for you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's sort of what the doctor was also alluding to. But he basically said it's my own choice, which sort of left me in the limbo. But I think that makes sense. I think what you're saying there makes sense.
Okay, good. And first of all, I'm glad you called back, and I'm glad that you've been on it for a week. You're feeling fine. And I think for our listeners, I mean, I'd be more than happy to take your call every week or every few weeks to give people updates. And that's up to you, obviously, if you want to call. But, especially you're a young guy. A lot of guys are very fearful of the drug. You did your due diligence. You had some concerns as well that you voiced last week. You chose, based on your research, based on going to different doctors, to take the drug. I'm sure people want to follow your progress.
Yeah, no, I did the full panel test for the hormones as well as the PSA test that you said. I did that one as well. So I'm going into it, with all the information that I could get. So I think it'll be an interesting case study, if nothing else. One other thing I wanted to ask, though, in terms of dosage, my doctor was saying that studies have shown that you don't have to take the full 1 milligram every day to see effects. He was saying, like, even if you average it over the week to become around 0.6, 0.7 milligrams, you'll still see all the effects. I wanted to see what your opinion on that is, especially for somebody who doesn't have any side effects, even in the one, whether it makes sense to go on the 0.6.
Well, here's what I think your doctor obviously has a tremendous amount of experience on his own, and because he's using the drug himself, and also he's prescribed it to many people. So he has a lot of clinical experience with the drug. So to answer your question, and again, I'm not a physician, there are guys who do very well on half the dosage. There are guys who do well on intermittent therapy, meaning that they take one full dose every second day or every third day, and they start to see positive results. And the thing about starting it that way is that you could always go up, if you feel like you are not getting the results. But it's also not, you've already started taking the 1 milligram dose. You feel fine on it. That is the recommended dosage. So there's really no reason to think that, there's at this stage, since you already started taking it for a week and you're feeling okay, there's really no reason to lessen your dosage. Again, that's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor. But if you really want to, then I think that most people will still see positive benefits.
Okay.
Right, Joe?
Yeah, there's actually some evidence that even a fifth of a tablet can have some sort of effect that's almost as effective as a full 1 milligram. Don't take a fifth on this information I just shared, but a lot of people feel and have reported that they're having success with such a small micro. I think they actually refer to it as microdosing, don't they?
That's how they refer to it online. Yeah.
Yeah, microdosing with finasteride at very small amounts, based on. I forgot where it came from. There was something that some sort of small study that some people referenced that was done a long time ago in a place far, far away, and they think it works fine, and that's fine for them. But like Spencer said, if you're on the recommended dose of 1 milligram per day and you're not having any issues so far, then clear sailing for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, that makes sense too. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated. I appreciate taking my call again.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
More of your time. Yeah,
that's fine. And listen, good luck. I'm sure. Again, we're not physicians, but I'm sure you're going to be fine. I'm glad you did your due diligence. You really researched this drug the way that it's supposed to be researched, and I wish you the best of luck.
All right, thanks very much. I really appreciate the support you guys provide, and I think that's invaluable. So I want to put that out there.
You got it, man. I think your mom's calling you.
All right.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. All right, take care.
See you. Bye-bye.
888-659-3727. And there's for some reason we had like 2 lower thirds on the screen, and it keeps popping back up to that. I don't know what it is. I mean, if Andrew Zarian was around, I would ask him to help me out, but the guy just disappeared.
I'm shocked.
He's got a baby, and all of a sudden it's like he's just, I don't know if he's spending most of his time in bars now, more than before, or what. I guess I should put myself on the air.
When you call him, Does he automatically remember who you are? Or does he have to think for a second?
I actually said, I wrote him earlier. I said, I'm working tonight in case you're interested. Nothing.
And let me guess, he wrote back, hiccup. Who is this?
He didn't even write back. I had to reach out to Suncast, thank God, who's in Detroit right now. God knows what the weather's like. And he took care of it. He got the show up and running tonight.
Good job, Suncast.
It's double pressing keys. That may be you may be right.
Double pressing keys.
As far as why I'm having double lower thirds. But it doesn't seem, I guess that's possible.
I don't see it on my end. So.
No, actually, I fixed it. But like throughout the entire opening, and I had plastic surgery live, lower third, and then on top of that was the bald truth.
Oh, I get it. I understand.
So, and that usually doesn't occur because when you press the right lower third, it's a different frame, it's an overlay, and so I don't get it, and I'm a little lost.
That's okay, man. I'm with you.
But anyway, the phone number, guys, is 888-659-3727. And if you're new to the broadcast, every once in a while my voice does crack, so get used to it. If you're new to the broadcast, this is the Hair Loss Show. I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. Joe Tillman is the original hair transplant mentor, a guy who's actually had 9 hair transplants, as insane as that may seem.
And it is.
And we are here to tell you that there is life after hair loss. That, the biggest problem is that in my view, and it's funny because I was talking about this venture capitalist who contacted me. There's just such little knowledge. Like we've been out here. I've been doing this for 20 years, but the bulk of the information that's still being provided to consumers through and also being perpetuated through the mainstream media is just such horseshit. It's all press release journalism. And if you guys don't know what that means, basically they're like, oh, wait a second. There's a new device for hair loss. This seems like an interesting story. We're going to try to get some numbers and some eyeballs, and we're going to talk about it and make it look like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, when in fact it's bullshit. Oh, the FDA cleared a new laser device? Let's hawk that on, our local News 4.
Yeah. A fluff piece is what I call it.
Right. And so consumers are extremely confused, and that's why it's actually really easy to dupe hair loss consumers because we're all so vulnerable.
It's not even as convincingly sounding.
I got it.
Yeah. Anyway, as saying the newest FDA cleared device or anything so obvious as that. I'm seeing, and you're seeing them too. It's stem cell hair transplantation. Using
oh my God
the catchphrases of the day to gather in eyeballs. And what's killing me now is there's a company. I won't say where they're from, and I won't say the name of the company, but they're talking about their FUE device being the latest and greatest FUE robot. And it's not a robot. It's a chair with a motor on it. That's it. And they're calling it a robot.
Well, does it like go around the room by itself somehow, or does it say
no? That's a vacuum cleaner. I'm talking.
When you sit down, does it be like is it like welcome to your hair transplant or something like that?
Well, there's a screen. It's like this. I imagine that this team comes in, or maybe they send it like in IKEA boxes, and you put it together. There's a chair, and they got like this wall that goes around it. It's not even like a full wall. It's like maybe as you're sitting, shoulder height. And then the patient sits in the chair, and in front of them is a screen with more of these like half walls on either side. And the only thing that moves is the chair. Technicians are still using some sort of suction device.
So the guys are just going like this.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And they're making whirring sounds.
Yeah.
because the patient can't see what's going on.
Yeah, dude, this industry is so fucked up. Even the guys that actually are who have, good devices. In my view, they either A, don't know how the fuck to market them properly, or B, are out and out lying to people about their products.
Yeah.
It's mind-bogglingly ridiculous to watch this. It's almost like, when you see this in the wild, or when I speak to people who are part of these companies that are, have these medical devices, I think to myself, how the fuck do you it's like this guy actually drives a car, ties his shoes in the morning.
Yeah.
They're so lost. It amazes me. And they're getting good salaries, and board members of different organizations and companies are like, have these guys on, and think these guys are going to help to bring their companies to the forefront. And I look at it, I'm just like, this is it's unbelievable.
Well, it's just I don't know. I mean, where do you begin? It's the lack of regulation. It's a lack of common sense. It's a lack of ethics. It's a lack of just sense in the greatest, spread of the word on how, these things are marketed and how people are buying into it. And it's such a massive, I mean, it's really difficult to wrap your head around it when you think about it. There are so many, I guess, people trying to get their angle to get a buck. And it's like I think about how some of these people or some of these devices, have small rooms of people brainstorming on what they're going to call this new device that's already been out for 15 years. And maybe they can slap some paint on it and maybe put a swivel head on it and call it a brand new device. And to think about the thought process that people go through to try and actually dupe people. Because you have to believe that they know what they're doing, that they know they're screwing people over.
Well, here's the thing. I actually spoke to a physician this week who, let's just say, has a lot of faith in a specific device. And there are dozens out there at this point. So This is not giving anything away. And I explained to this particular physician that, listen, just got to tell you that, and I am the most open-minded guy when it comes to, people who can say they're going to do something and do something. I'll give you an example of that. About 8 years ago, a couple that a common law and I know said that they're going to come up with a protein bar, and they're going to try to get into the protein bar market. And I'm like, you know what? You guys are fitness guys. I think you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone, including, I'm not going to say whose family members, were saying like, oh yeah, like you're going to get into the protein bar business with all this, all these bars out there. I mean, that's a tough business. I mean, it's already been done, essentially. Yeah. You've got all these huge companies. Well, fast forward, the name of the company is Quest Nutrition. And they are the biggest protein bar and protein nutrition company currently in the world. The company is worth $1 billion right now, or something insane like that. So I am the most open-minded guy in the world. I knew when just by knowing who these people were and the seriousness of what they were doing, that they were going to, at the very least, be able to be successful at it. I had no clue it would be the $1 billion business that it is right now. But again, very open-minded. I told this doctor, I said, there's no fucking way this company or this device is going to reach critical mass. You do not have, it doesn't have the legs, it does not have the team to make it happen. It will never happen. This guy was just like, I disagree. He was so just living his life with these blinders on. And, I'm not a naysayer. Again, I'm repeating myself, but that's just, I am, when people tell me, like when my father said, what do you know about writing fucking books? That was his line to me.
You can't even read.
Yeah, that's where I came from. That's what I came from. So
Yeah.
I'm never that guy. But let me tell you, in this particular situation, I know what's going to happen. It's already happening. So I think it's important for anyone who's watching the program, listening to the show, to really understand when you're going in to have a hair transplant, really, and this is something that I think you wanted to bring up, Joe, or part of what you wanted to bring up. Look at the physician.
Yeah.
Don't look at the device, because many of the devices that are out there are really good. They work if they are being used by the right physician and the right team, whether it's a smart graft, whether it's a artist device, whether it's a WAS system, whether it's a system from Cole Instruments. You put a paintbrush in someone who can't paint, his hands, they're going to fuck you up. And there is no device on the market today, no matter what is being claimed, where you can just push a button and that shit's going to work and going to work well. It'll work. The motors will start going.
Oh yeah, they'll start whirring and things will start punching and moving and all these things. But it's like I was saying to someone earlier, they're dumb. There's no you have to be there, and every extraction made is made with the judgment and experience of the operator itself. It's not done by the machine,
right?
And or any machine.
Any machine. Look at look what Alan Bauman had to do with the NeoGraft. He decided, you know what, we think this is I really like the balance of this punch. It works well.
Yeah,
I'm able to use small punches, but I'm not a big fan of the suction, so I'm going to disable the suction. And he just used it as kind of like an expensive punch. But it works, and he has happy patients. Yeah. But another guy wouldn't know to do that. He would just open the box and either start using it himself or hire a company or a team to utilize it. And I'm not saying that there has been proof that the airflow from devices like that actually caused the desiccation or drying that we think that it does or might. But there are a lot of doctors who do believe that that's the case. So unless this is in a skilled hands, or unless maybe it's the grafts are taken directly out of the suction device or the what is that called? Like
the punch?
Not the punch. Where it lands
the reservoir.
The reservoir, and then put directly into a moist environment. The grafts could possibly be damaged, and it would take a real expert and a real team of experts who are running this device to know that. So that's the key. You got to know what you're doing, no matter what you're buying. So when you're seeing all these devices being marketed out there, or you're asking your question, should I have an OmniGraft, or should I have a Smart Graft, or should I have a NeoGraft, or should I have an Artist? Don't even think about that. You ask the best doctor what they're using, or the best doctor in your area, or if once you've decided to do your research and you found the right doctor for you, then you ask, well, oh, by the way, how do you extract the grafts? What tools are you using? And
it really is secondary. It really is
100%.
I mean, you find the clinic that has the most impressive before and after photos and videos. You look to see how they're presenting their results. Are they using, please God, hope they're using at least high definition, but are they using 4K, Ultra HD? Not a requisite, but it's nice to see because you know that they're proud of the results. Are they using tricky hairstyles that might skew the result a little bit?
Yeah.
You're
referring to me, aren't you?
I am actually.
Yeah, okay.
I really am.
There you are.
Look at the testimonials and then try to, have a consultation with this clinic and ask for references that you can speak to on the phone, preferably in person, so you can actually see the work firsthand. In fact, you should always try to do that. And then that's when it comes down to, okay, if I like this clinic, they're on my short list. That's when you can inquire about how they get the results that they get, because ultimately, whether it be manual, whether it be WA, whether it be artist or whatever, that particular practitioner, doctor or whomever, feels most comfortable with that tool, and that's how he gets the best results that you are attracted to online. So that's the progression that you should look at. And I look at, I was mentioning this to you off air earlier. I look at the number of clinics out there that have so many different variations to describe the exact same thing that everyone else is doing by throwing their name on it, changing the letters around to be a different acronym, or
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that one.
Well, it's crazy to me.
I just saw a guy go online and say that his PRP is 5 times better than anyone else's.
Yeah.
Now,
and he has zero clue about what anyone else is doing.
Right. But how is that even something that is measurable or quantifiable? Yeah. And then, let's find out how it's quantifiable, but then let's see how it's verifiable to be able to go out there on a public platform as a physician and be able to say that with a straight face.
I've not seen this, but it's interesting to hear this. I've not actually heard of someone saying that their PRP is 5 times better.
Well, this particular guy is one of the, just like you said, is one of the guys that kind of changes the letters around or made his own letters for FUE.
Okay.
And now he's created something that's new. That's not PRP, because what he does is so far advanced to PRP. I forgot what he called it, and
it doesn't make any sense.
And
it's
and if I do say what it is, then the person's going to be upset. But the point is, it is unverifiable information that, in my view, is being perpetuated, and this particular doctor is pandering to an incredibly vulnerable audience. And this is something that has been done by this particular physician for many years. And
I'd like to know, how long has this supercharged version of PRP been in place, and how long has this doctor even been doing PRP in the first place?
Let me ask you this. You think that I would not be in this doctor's chair if that were the case? Do you think I would not be there? I would not be on a plane right now, or I would actually fly him up with his techs and his fucking centrifuge, whatever he needed.
Language, Spencer.
Sorry, that's right. He could stay at my place, and he can do his special PRP on me. I'll pay for everything. I'll do it on the air.
I asked the timeline issue because I've seen people, slam, like, say, PRP ACell, calling it, just thin science or weak science or not science or what have you. And then inside of a year, not only embrace it, but talk about studies they've been doing that show encouraging results and starting to market it to. It's like,
wait a second. I think we're talking about the same person.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, I just think it's really important, and I know, and I hope that, and especially for you new listeners on iHeart, understand that everyone now is offering platelet-rich plasma therapy for hair loss. A lot of cosmetic surgery facilities, a lot of med-spas, because it is a way that appears to be a safe, and in most cases it is, natural because you're using your own blood, and effective because there have been some studies that certain types of PRP, when it is spun and when you're using the right PRP system, there have been some studies and a lot of anecdotal reports that it works really well. I'm a believer in certain PRP.
As am I.
I've seen it with my own eyes.
As have I.
Right.
I've had it done.
Right. That's right. But I would not believe the vast majority of people who are offering PRP now, especially at these incredibly variable rates, some as high as $4,500, and they claim that you only need to have one touch-up and then you're done.
Yeah.
This is something that needs to be done consistently, just like taking medication.
Because if you didn't have to have it done over and over, it would not be a treatment, it'd be a cure.
Exactly. Well said.
Thank you.
But this particular physician, I mean, I just saw the video yesterday, and it's almost like, it's not like I can't say I can't believe it. But I think to myself, this person must really believe his bullshit in order to do this, because no caring, ethical, or empathetic human being on this planet would go out there and make the claims that are being made unless they truly believed in this, unless they were a sociopath. Is that too much to say? Because I mean,
no.
If I was a 22-year-old kid and I saw this video, I would be running, not walking. I would be calling this person up and saying, "Hey, you know what? This sounds really interesting. It's non-invasive. How much does it cost? Let me give it a shot. If your PRP is 5 times better than everyone else's, then why wouldn't I go to you?"
Of course. And then it comes down to the results. Where are they?
Fucking maddening, man. Let's take a phone call. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
I kind of painted myself into a corner with the whole not Joe from Staten Island. I got nothing for you today. Nothing at all.
Oh, my God. All right.
You didn't think we were going to pick up in time.
I'll talk to you later.
I had a question about what you guys are talking about, this PRP.
Yeah.
And I've heard it from time to time. By the way, Brian from LA. Hi, nice to see you guys.
Hey, Brian from LA.
What's up, Brian?
I or not Joe from Staten Island, as you were calling me. This sounds like something that could benefit everybody, even if it doesn't give you tremendous results. Is that correct? Oh shit! Something fell in my room over here. Is that a correct assessment? Like, even if you don't get like the most awesome results, it could still benefit you, or is it kind of like a case by case?
I would say no. I'd say it's a case by case basis, and also, you know, there are so many different platelet-rich plasma protocols and kits now. Some are FDA approved, some are non-FDA approved, some are open, some are closed. I did a video for Plastic Surgery Live, which maybe I'll have that. I'll post that on the Bald Truth, where I interviewed Joe Greco, who is like the godfather of PRP therapy for hair loss. And he explains it really well. The vast majority of stuff that's being done out there is ineffective. And there's different types of PRP that can be beneficial for the skin and not beneficial for the hair, and vice versa. So the practitioner really has to understand what they're doing. There's also like you said, a case-by-case situation where some people just respond better, even if the right PRP is being used. I have someone in my personal life that actually flies from the East Coast, from New York, down to Sarasota, Florida, to see Joe Greco himself, to have this done. She goes 4 times a year, and a lot of her hair grew back. And she was definitely dealing with androgenic alopecia. It worked really well for her. There are people in New York, doctors who I recommend through the IHRS, that are offering PRP. Joe Greco is not even a physician. Okay, he's a PhD. He just did the research on this. And she goes down to him because I know his results are positive. So to answer your question, can this be beneficial for everybody? No, I don't think so. I think a lot of people get ripped off.
The thing, you also have to understand that on the flip side, even if you find an effective protocol, it's not going to work for everyone simply because the way it was explained to me is that PRP it's similar to or the not the mechanism of how it works, but the candidate for PRP is similar to a candidate for finasteride. If you're bald, don't even waste your time.
Right.
It works better, unfortunately and ironically, with the more hair you have. So if you're experiencing some minor miniaturization, if it's going to work, it's going to work well. If you have, if you're like me, where everything on top is transplanted, it's not going to do anything at all unless you're trying to get maybe the fringe hairs that are still miniaturizing in that border between native and transplanted hair to thicken up, and that's what it did for me. And then people that are bald and don't have really any miniaturized hairs to speak of, or maybe real tiny ones, they're not going to be saved. Nothing's going to happen.
I see. So are we allowed to talk about the damage? Sorry, that's my bird talking if you hear some noises.
That's right. I'm just waiting for your bird to do the opening of the Ball of Truth eventually.
I'm trying to get him to do a Joe for Staten Island impression. That way I can have him. So, I want to teach him. Just give me 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. That's all I want to teach. So can we talk about the damage that it would cost somebody? Or I shouldn't probably pose it as that, but it sounds awfully expensive, especially if you have to fly out to somebody like Greco or whatever. It's like, how can somebody get an introductory to this to see how they feel about it and how well it works?
You can. Yeah. These guys, basically they will charge whatever the market will bear. And it's being promoted like a fucking miracle. So it'll go, depending on where you go, it can be from anywhere from $800 to $4,500 per session. And you're not going to get any deals. Let's put it that way. That's just the way that it is. Now, being Brian from LA and being someone that I know, I can probably get it done for you. If you would be willing to talk about it on the air, all these guys want to get free promotion. But the thing is, it's possible, like with any other thing, any other medication that works or process that works, that you can go through a telogen effluvium. Now, how would you like to go, even if it didn't cost you anything? And I'm like, you know what, man, I'm going to hook you up. And then all of a sudden, you got 1,000 hairs in the sink every morning. You're not going to be too happy.
Well, of course, I would crawl up into a fetal position and be cursing out somebody's name. No, I'm not going to do any of that. I think I'm a pretty balanced person. I would have to consider that. It's definitely caught my attention because it kind of sounds like a Netflix plan though for your hair. It's like let's get you into something and see how it goes.
Let me tell you, Brian. If I wanted to, and you're a person that I've known for a while, has called the show, I'd say, you know what? Maybe this guy doesn't want to continue to work where he's working. Maybe he'd like to make a little bit more money, a little bit more steady stuff happening. I'm going to set him up with this clinic, make you the manager. We can do 50 PRPs a day or more. Put the American Hair Loss Association seal on it. Rent a really nice place in Beverly Hills. Rent will be paid for the first day. That's how easy it is.
Can I get?
That's how easy.
Get a foam suit and I'll dance on the corner for you too.
I'm talking about naming it the vampire hair transplant.
Whatever. That is exactly how easy it is to make money with PRP for hair loss. So, if all things fail, it's very possible that there's going to be like a Kobren clinic. Don't be surprised.
Hey, I'm not surprised. And I think if anybody should be trying something that can pseudo help people or have something, it should be you. I mean, honestly, I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago, reading about you and watching your stuff. It took me a long time before I decided to call and actually, participate in your show in some way just to kind of get some questions and answers. You remember when I first asked it's about 4 years ago now, maybe.
Yeah.
It's about a while ago. It's not something I do lightly. Like whenever I buy a TV, like I go hours online looking at different reviews and cross-referencing. So, I totally believe in the entity that you are. I really think that it's unfortunate that there are people out there that, want to take you down, but you're always going to have that. And I just think that, in my opinion, my opinion with whatever it is that you decide to do, like, I don't know. I think that you're a person that has their pulse on the industry more than anybody. And that's probably arguable. I don't think anybody could actually refute that.
I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, again, I was, like I said, I was contacted by this venture capitalist, through LinkedIn because they want to get involved with something. And people contact me all the time, some with insane ideas, some with opportunities I had an opportunity not too long ago to start my own clinic. And if I chose to, and obviously I would bring Joe on board with this one because he knows how to run them. Again, simple. It's absolutely simple. Get a clinic. If I wanted to buy robots, whatever I want, however I wanted to do it, bring it in there, slap the American Hair Loss Association seal, promote it through our show consistently, get so much content online that I would totally drown out everybody else. And we would be making money hand over fist. That's not me. I don't want to deal with A, selling something to the consumer, B, possible complications that arise in any cosmetic surgery practice. You know? So, but anyway, you're right. And I appreciate you saying that. People do look at us, people look at me, people look at Joe as, influencers in the field. And the fact of the matter is, we could control that flow of information either in a good way or, for evil. And you're a big superhero guy, so,
Yeah.
So it's an interesting position to be in. Let's put it that way.
Well, I've definitely been, I don't think I'm in any worse shape than I was last year, but anything that can improve, I'm definitely interested in, and it's something that I have no quarrels with trying. I use, I told the story a long time ago when I started Rogaine before I did Propecia and called your show, and I went through a major shed to the point where I was like, I literally looked in the mirror, and it was, I don't know if this is something that happens to every guy, but there's just this point where you just go, oh, wow, it's over. There's really nothing I could say about this. And I did my best to, scatter each follicle across my head, not comb-over style. And the one girl that worked in the restaurant who was also a hair beautician says, oh, going bald, I see. And I was like, I know you're on, what is it, Heart Radio?
Yeah, iHeart.
It's all right. Yeah, iHeart. But a lot of colorful words came out into my head when I heard that, and she actually had a tattoo skull on her ankle that has a completely wicked comb over.
Really?
And it's like one of her favorite things. And I was like, and she's all like, soon you'll be like this, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like this happened, But luckily, it came back, and that moment is like a make or breaking moment. It's like that moment where you realize, what kind of person are you going to be? Are you going to be the kind of person that does crawl into the fetal position and look at the world scowling? Or are you going to sit there and say, look, this is me. That's it. It's over. I'm just going to deal with it. And that's kind of like where I went with it. And
right.
It's very reminiscent, and I think every guy could probably agree to this. It's very reminiscent of that time where you break up with your girlfriend, and the first time you see her with somebody else, and you got to realize somebody's I could say penis, right? Penis is going into your ex-woman, and it's hard. It's a make or break moment as a man. That's where I think we separate.
You see, what I would think the other way around. I'd be like, I would be looking at him saying, that your woman's mouth was on my junk. That's how I would see it.
You're like, have fun touching the halls.
Yeah.
The hallway.
I was there. I was there for quite a long time before you were. So enjoy that.
But
and that's it.
Remember, that's more of your mentality now. But honestly, when you're a kid, you fall in love with somebody for the first time. We don't really get this. We have this, insane optimism that they'll love us forever, and we'll love them forever, and we'll always be together. But if not that, you'll think, she's mine. And that's how I think some guys turn psycho and possessive. It crushes them, and they can't deal with it.
Well, that's how Joe Tillman is with me, actually.
Shut up. I am not.
I think we spent enough time with this caller. I think you should hang up the phone. Why do you think you should hang up the phone? Why do you keep talking to him?
What about me, man? I'm over here.
You got all these instant messages on your computer. Hang up now. This is too much time.
He's like, it's break time, dude. Break time.
It's break time, dude. It's break time. Goodness.
It's true though. At some point, we have to see it for what it is, and and obviously, if you can look nice like the two of you and still keep it going, you will. Obviously, that's the option you'll take. But at some point, when there's no more game playing that you can do, because the Donald Trump thing is ridiculous. It looks worse than if he took a nice crew cut and, thinned out on top. Like, it looks like a dead orange raccoon on top of his head,
But he can't change that at this point.
But that's the thing.
It'd be like Jason Alexander suddenly, showing up.
Well, he has. Jason Alexander's wearing a piece for a while, and he came out
for
wearing
a while.
a piece.
Yeah, but that was after Seinfeld.
Yeah,
right. You can't change your look because, Patrick Stewart. You can't. He can't go back. He can't fake it now.
But here's the thing about Trump, and
Jonah Hill tried to get skinny for a second, and he had to get fat again.
Yeah, that didn't work.
But I do think that obviously, in my view, the integrity, based on everything that I've seen over the years, I think the integrity of his scalp has been changed because of certain procedures he may or may not have had, including scalp reduction and potentially a flap surgery. And I think he may have had grafts put in front of the flap if he had a flap. I don't know if that's the case. But you're right. I think with his current hairline, it would be possible for him to cut it shorter. But he probably, if he did have a scalp reduction, has a pretty significant scar on the top of his head, which he's currently covering. So if he were to just keep that front, which he does have a good, strong hairline, and he has decent sides, then that would be exposed. And basically, those scars could look either, if they're stretched out, they look like shit, or sometimes they're indented and kind of look like an ass crack on top of
The
your
other
head.
problem is that they don't make Orange Topic.
Actually, they do.
Orange? Get out.
I think they make for redheads, right?
No, different. Orange versus redhead. That's a different. It's a different deal.
No, but he would. I do agree that if he would just let his hair go white, and but there's a lot of we all do what we do for whatever reason. That's it. It makes us feel more comfortable in our own skin. He's being criticized to the point where it's just like it's just part of his. That's his gig now. He's known as the crazy hair dude. Now he's known as the orange crazy hair dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's if he go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say it's like it doesn't make sense to change because at this point, if he changes, it looks like he's changing because of all the criticism.
What's funny though? He's the president.
And that just makes it worse.
What's wild is that we are basically talking about Donald Trump, who is the president of the United States. It is still surreal for me to think about that.
It is surreal. I'm not going to go cry in a safe space, but it is surreal.
No. God bless America. Let me tell you that is proof positive that anybody could do anything in this country.
Yep. 100%.
It is, and he's the most prolific in the sense that he's been. Maybe Ronald Reagan had a lot of footage on him, but I don't think as much as this guy. This guy has more footage than any president previous, right?
I would say that, he is absolutely the most famous person in the world. I mean, there was Michael Jackson and there's Donald Trump. And there's no doubt in my mind, he's the most famous, most viewed, most read about person on the planet.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I would agree with that.
And that's fucking wild.
I made a meme once he became president.
They're going to pull me off the air. I keep cursing. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard. And you need to put a disclaimer in your little when people call on the phone because, I had to tell myself today, I go, okay, watch your mouth.
Well, it is possible, depending on if they're running a board over there, that someone is actually, the thing is about radio now, everything's automated. So they may not even have a human over there that is going to, cut out any of the curse words. It should be usually when it's on radio. It used to be on a delay. So I don't know if this is on a delay or not. It should be, but I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, I shouldn't even be saying this. I don't know how much longer iHeart's going to be around anyway. So, look, I'm just being honest. Look, they want the program great. I appreciate them airing the show. That's terrific. But I just got to be honest. I hope they last, for another 10 years. But, radio of all types is dying. That medium is dying. If you can't pay the rent, eventually shit's just going to go away. See, I said it again. I can't help myself.
You did it again.
You're the first person to break your own rule. You shoot yourself in the foot. Well, you might be right. They might have a curator like a robot, some sort of like program algorithm. But
and the seat moves.
So I'll let you get back to the callers. I did want to ask you this. I wanted to ask you, do you guys have any...
That's a nice meme, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I was saying I created a meme after Trump was elected, and I sent it to all my friends, and I got around for a while.
I like it.
Basically, laying it with, and let me see if I can explain it, because if Spencer does it, it'll probably get pretty vulgar.
Yes.
It's a guy got his hands down a girl's pants against the wall. Somebody took a picture of him. They didn't know. And it says an acronym up to, is it that acronym? Yeah, it's an acronym, right?
Yeah.
GTBTP, which means grab them by the P, women genitalia. And it says the 68th Amendment, denying is unconstitutional.
I love it.
It's on the internet somewhere, but circulating.
It's good.
Anyway, I sent it to him. Do you have any news of any? Because I remember before Joe used to get off, every once in a while he'd put up some news that would be kind of interesting to hear. And he was talking about these other did everything fall by the wayside?
No, I mean
nothing that's really kind of
things haven't fallen by the wayside. It's just that things aren't moving as quickly as we had hoped. So Replicell is still doing its thing. You got other companies that are working on cell-based or cellular-based hair loss treatments. You have companies in Japan that are working on things. You have some companies that are claiming that they're going to be opening up facilities down in Mexico. I don't like to speak about it too much because I don't want to get people overly, or hype anything or get people overly excited. And then when I speak about it too much and all of a sudden it's like, why aren't you interviewing so-and-so? And Kobren should be interviewing this guy. You know what? I'm tired of that shit.
And Kobren's not interviewing because he's in the pocket of the hair transplant companies.
Right. That's true, actually.
Well, there's also a responsibility that you have that people need to think about. Anything you put on the show, any type of publicity and everything, there's a lot of first-time viewers. Like at one time I was a first-time listener, and anything that came on that show, like I was heavily considering or thinking about or, researching. And, you'll be doing that all day, all week, every week with something else. Somebody else wants to get on. And it's kind of like, in my opinion, that's not what this show is. It's not a show where, anything that comes down the pipe that could possibly be a solution or somebody, snake oil, whatever, that you promote, put on there, and then we figure out, weeks to months to years later that it was completely BS.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, and I will give you an example. Besides, talking about Go Go 15 years ago, and hair multiplication, even talking about hair plucking and A-cell, when it seemed very exciting. And, a doctor that I have a lot of respect for was doing it. And then there's another doctor who I don't necessarily have that much respect for, but contacted me because he was actually the guy that designed this protocol and said, you know what, you're promoting this other guy. Why don't you have me on the show? This guy actually sued me many, many years ago. And I said, you know what? His name is Gary, by the way. I'm like, you know what, Gary? Come on. You can come on the show. That's fine. We'll talk about it. And I just let him speak about what he was doing. And all of a sudden, bam, this guy's business is going, allegedly, he got involved with this plastic surgeon. It's going through the roof. Everyone's talking about this online. And then it's not working for people. And who gets blamed for it?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's working. I'm just reporting that these doctors are doing this in hopes that they are essentially being able to just pluck hairs out that will eventually regrow and then be able to implant them into the scalp. And they basically kind of like a non-surgical hair transplant or semi-surgical because they're implanting it just into the front. And there were doctors who were very hopeful. Why not talk about that on The Bald Truth? You know why? Because then people end up going to these guys and getting fucked up.
Yep.
That's the hard thing. That's the rub. Is he could do 150 great patients and then screw up one person, and it's just like me on Yelp. I got tons of great Yelp reviews on every restaurant. One bad Yelp review, and I'm in the office talking to a manager about possibly what implications this has for the restaurant.
Right.
And it's like, it's on a much smaller scale, but it just goes to show, it's like, well, what about all this other stuff, where people said, they'll come back, even after a bad experience, that I fixed it, and it's like, that's very private and personal. And so I completely agree and understand why not to always, promote or talk to these people unless something is pretty concrete or substantially, shown to be beneficial for a vast majority of the people that do it.
The reality is I actually would make more money by having every, crackpot or every scientist that's connected to a university that's even looking into hair loss on the program, because it creates more traffic and more buzz. And I choose not to because, unfortunately, based on my past experiences, I've given people a lot of false hope, just as you said, just by having these guys on the air. So it's not going to happen anymore. You know what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about finasteride. We're going to talk about hair transplantation. We're going to talk about shit that we know that works. We'll talk about PRP, but we'll be very honest about it and explain that not all PRP is created equal. And even the guys who are with my organization, who pay an annual fee or a monthly fee to be part of what we do, there are many guys that I haven't seen their PRP results, so I can't recommend their PRP results. And I certainly can't recommend their low-level laser light therapy results. You know what I can recommend? That the fact that they're good surgeons and they do great hair transplants on a consistent basis. And I could also say that every one of these doctors has at least one unhappy patient. That's it. That's our truth. That's what we're saying here. People have questions about their hair loss. We're just going to talk about what we have today.
Not to mention the fact that we're going to push the idea that getting a hair transplant to begin with is not always the answer. In fact, it's always the last answer. You need to try preventive medications. You need to try accepting your loss as it is and just moving on without any sort of surgery. And when Spencer brings up these, or used to bring up these, can almost call them rogue treatments. You have a subset of the hair loss community that will grab onto, you can even say zero evidence, just someone mentioning that some rare form of coconut in Guatemala has some sort of enzyme that will potentially, maybe when mixed with cinnamon and olive oil, generate new hair on your scalp. And you'll have people that are believing it, flying into Guatemala, finding this coconut and doing. The point is that it's dangerous to talk about some of these things because it can send people into this obsessive spiral trying to find the answer to their hair loss. And one thing that me and Spencer always talk about is if you're not seeing it on Time magazine front cover, then there's probably not a whole lot to it that can be seen as consistently consistent and something that can be replicated on a regular basis.
Look, if that were the case, I would do the show just so that I could do it on the Bald Truth. And then it would be like the next time someone goes to my website, it would be like a little kid on a dock with a fishing pole. And it's just going to say, "Gone fishing, mother effers." And that's it. And I am out.
Yeah.
And that's the end. That's the end of this journey, this beautiful ride that I've had for 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, not only does this, what Joe was saying, not only does it sound dangerous, but it also sounds extremely delicious. Coconut, cinnamon, olive. It's like a churro head. It's like in Guatemala. I'm down for that. Well, thanks.
It's at least a good excuse.
Yeah, listen, we're Brian from Los Angeles, right? Is that what you call yourself?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break, actually. So,
all right, yeah. I was about to say, I'll let you go.
All right. You're gonna cut us off. See, I got you first.
I had to hit the bumper for you.
All right.
No, I was feeling my time. I was taking too much time, but I just wanted to let you guys finish because I always feel like I'm bumping heads when we're talking because of the delay in the cell phone or something. But thank you so much for answering the questions, and have a good show. I'll keep listening.
All right, man. Listen, thanks for the call. I'll talk to you soon. Good hearing from you.
All right, you too.
All
Bye-bye.
right, take it easy. Guys, the phone number, 888-659-3727. We have to take a break. When we come back, we'll be taking your calls. You are listening to and watching The Bald Truth. Stay with us.
The man who's helping to make hair loss history.
They wish to cure us, but I say we are the cure.
It's Spencer David Kobren.
Hey guys, welcome back. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren, and you're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. The show used to be called Self-Help Radio for Men. That's kind of the way that it was coined. Or is that what you call it? Coined? That's where they used to sound radio. And I guess that's what we are. What was that? Oh, he's fucking me up. What was that?
Coined Works.
Coined Works. Okay. And I'm going to be kicked off iHeartRadio. I can't do this.
I think that's a guarantee.
Yeah, I can't stop cursing. And, it's gotten to the point now that I've been doing it online for so long that I have no more filter.
It's okay, man. It's all right.
Look, whatever.
Ain't no big thing.
Whatever, we'll see what happens. What am I going to do? Hopefully they actually have a person operating a board. And that this is on a delay, and then no one will be the wiser.
I'd like to see like an image of someone just sitting there listening to the show, trying to hit the bleep button and time it just right.
Well, you know what? That's the way radio used to work.
Yeah.
And that is probably not the case at this point. Everything's automated. It's possible, there's probably some algorithms and some software out there that can catch the swear words. I'm sure of it.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
and it would have to be at least on some sort of delay, even a micro delay for it to catch it.
Right. So whatever. So I know you wanted to speak about something that is been of concern to you for a long time. You bring it up a lot, or at least you bring it up to me a lot.
Yeah. It's it has to do with, when patients are doing their research and they find a clinic that may be known for, say, great strip work. They've got lots of results, they got lots of happy patients. People talk about them on Bald Truth Talk. People talk about them, wherever. And then the question becomes, well, what about, my options for FUE? And various people will chime in and say, well, Clinic X is a great choice. And what really bugs me, and I've talked to not just you, but I've talked to a few people about this, is why is it that some of these strip clinics are automatically considered to be great for FUE? It's something that goes against everything that people are supposed to be taught when they do the research. It goes against everything that I teach people on how to do research, and it's a completely against the grain approach to doing proper research. And to be fair, I can understand the idea that, well, if a clinic is so great at strip, then they certainly know what they're doing when it comes to getting a quality graft. But I disagree with that, basically because it's comparing two different procedures completely. Like there's nothing similar to strip versus FUE.
I don't mean to cut you off. I would say as far as extraction is concerned, you're 100% right. So I agree with that. But as far as handling the grafts, once they're extracted, as far as creating recipient sites, as far as implantation of the grafts, these really well-known strip clinics have the infrastructure to pull at least that aspect of things off really well. So that is half the battle. And that's a very important aspect of hair transplant surgery of any kind. So that's a good thing. But as far as extraction is concerned, that's there lies the rub, as they would say.
There lies the rub, but there's also the issue. It's like, and what you said is exactly right. In fact, I would even argue that a good strip clinic is probably in a better position to do good FUE because they've got the microscope infrastructure.
Right.
They've got the technicians that already know what great grafts are supposed to look like. I think that there's a good argument for that, at least in some cases. Excuse me. But I see this and there's almost no visual evidence to back up these assumptions, and that's what I have to call it, are assumptions that these strip clinics are doing great FUE work that's on par with the strip work. There are a few clinics out there that are getting mentioned a fair bit more than I believe they should when it comes to FUE, because when you go to look at their body of evidence, you look at the website, you look at Bald Truth Talk, you look at their social media accounts, their FUE results are almost non-existent, yet people are talking about them as if they're leaders in the field. And it blows my mind that this kind of thought process can be applied and while at the same time throwing out the basics of good hair restoration research. And I go back to the assumption that people make on these cases that, yeah, the strip clinics that are great at strip obviously know what they're doing with that. So how hard can it be? But at the same time, FUE is not easy. It is a very difficult procedure when you're doing it day in, day out to get consistency, great grafts every time, all the time. It's not a simple affair. And so
we just put up a segment from when Dr. Gable called in, Steve Gable in Portland, and essentially that's what he said. He goes, this guy is a facial plastic and reconstructive surgeon. This guy he's an ear, nose, and throat guy. The guy, has real surgical skill.
Yep.
And he's a doctor's doctor. And he's the first to say FUE is hard. No matter what device you're using, no matter who says anything, it is hard to do well and it's hard to do consistently.
Yep.
No matter what.
Yeah. Because he gets it.
Right.
Yeah. He understands it, and he's. I'm sure that he would feel the same way. It's just I don't know, for everyone that's watching this, and I'm probably going to be writing about this in a future blog article.
Always pimping something, aren't you?
Got to pimp something, baby.
Yeah,
Got to pimp it.
I hear you.
But it'll show up somehow on Bald Truth Talk. But you need to hold even the most reputable people in the industry to their own high standards and ask them, okay, well, if you're doing FUE, where are your results? I think it's.
I'm going to be even more candid. I'm going to be even more candid. There are guys who are in the industry, who have great reputations, incredibly reputable surgeons who have been around for a long time, who have had great, consistent strip results. We received practically zero complaints from a couple of these guys over the years.
Yep.
And now we're receiving more complaints in a very short period of time than we had ever received in more than a decade. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells you that Dr. Gable's correct.
Right.
It's
FUE
a very difficult procedure.
is a difficult procedure. So when you decide to have it done, you want to go to someone who does it and has done it for a long time. You look at a guy like Alan Bauman. Now, I find it interesting that there are colleagues of his out there who will say things like, well, he's a great promoter, this and that. Yes, he is a great promoter. But he did embrace FUE more than a decade ago and decided to convert his entire practice.
15 years ago.
Yes, into an FUE practice. So I have to say that he's extremely experienced and has a lot of happy FUE patients out there.
Yeah.
Now, everyone has unhappy patients, for sure. But he has consistently done a really good job with his FUE. He chooses to use the NeoGraft. He chooses to use the Artist. I actually saw another device. I don't know if he wants me to name it in the background of one of his latest videos. So it looks like he's going to be potentially, testing that out. But this guy's handled probably, and I think the number is something like 2 million, at least his clinic has, FUE grafts in the last 15 years. And that seems like a lot. But when you're talking about, 2,000 graft cases, 3,000 graft cases over a 15-year period, that's very possible.
Yeah.
There are a few doctors out there like that. Now, there are also guys who've embraced FUE kind of later, but maybe they've been doing it for 5 years or 6 years or 4 years or whatever, but they've been doing it consistently. And then there are guys who've just chosen to say they've been doing it consistently, or claim they've been testing out different devices for a long period of time, and they just hire people to do the FUE. That's how you have to kind of, navigate this industry and get a sense of really, like Joe said, how long has your FUE surgeon been performing FUE?
Or the technicians that the surgeon employs.
Right, exactly. Now, it doesn't matter what they decide to use. If, Bauman brought in an Artist into his FUE clinic, but he understands and his staff understands how to set those Artist parameters.
Mm-hmm.
Period. They understand how FUE works. But if it's a new guy who's only maybe never performed a strip, never performed an FUE until he bought a NeoGraft, for instance, then you have a guy who has to make decisions about something he knows nothing about or very little about. Or he's relying on people who he's hiring, a per diem staff, to make those medical decisions, those surgical decisions, nuances that someone really has to understand, life-altering decisions for him and for you. This is serious shit that people don't want to hear. The device manufacturers don't want me to talk about this. The doctors don't want me to talk about this. I mean, IHRS members don't mind. They support this. Part of, it's not just me supporting them. Okay? It's not just me saying, you know what, I give these guys a thumbs up. They're doing great work. Part of being an IHRS member is that they support the truth. And that's very valuable for you guys to understand. They're willing to, they're not just concerned about getting leads through their door, at least most of them. They support what we do here in the Ball of Truth. They know that we're going to tell people, you know what? Surgery is a last resort. Everyone's fucked up somebody. Oh, there we go again. I can't stop.
There you go.
And they support that message. And they support that by, allowing, they want to be connected to us. And they support that by, their annual dues, their annual screening fees. It's a tough message for a lot of doctors to swallow. And so I really think that it's important for people to really, when they're doing the due diligence, you go to the IHRS first. But also within the IHRS, there are some doctors who have been and have more experience than others using certain devices and doing certain techniques. And it's your time to do your due diligence to find that out.
Yeah, that's when it's your personal responsibility to question everything, because the most qualified doctor for one person may not be the most qualified doctor for you, and you've got to ask the questions. One thing I remember experiencing when I used to be a consultant was I would recognize when people would have questions, but they wouldn't. I would be sure to ask people if they understand what I'm talking about. And I learned that even when I ask them, I give them the opportunity to say, no, please explain more. They would say, yes, I understand, the kind of nod. And I would learn to actually dig deeper and say, well, what do you think about this? What's your opinion on this that I just told you? And that's when I realized, they don't really understand what I'm talking about. And so I think it's your duty to ask for clarification, not if, but when you don't understand what's being said, because a lot of clinics, they almost become, I don't want to say numb. Of course, numb is a good word to use in some cases, but they forget that as researchers, which basically you are, you may not understand everything that they're talking about in their clinic. Sometimes they have their own jargon that they use inside the clinic that may not be used at other clinics. You may not be up to speed on the current terminology, and they are. You got to stop yourself or stop them and ask for clarification.
Well, and that's an interesting point. And I think that, I brought up in the past that I think it's important and it would be very valuable for clinics, physicians, and for patients to record consultations. Let the patient know that just an audio recording, nothing that's identifiable, so that both the physician and the patient has something to refer to. The problem is, and this is what I found really interesting, and this is when I've spoken to a group of doctors who are not just IHRS members, but this is an entire group of non-IHRS and IHRS. They don't want to do it because a lot of these guys have salesmen who are in there who are providing information while, they let's put it this way. It's not necessarily just a doctor speaking to a patient providing them with information. There are salesmen in there trying to make that sale.
Yeah.
And while it's in the doctor's best interest, in my view, for potential, protection of, against liability and all types of issues, even especially online shit. There I go again. Because they're so concerned that they will lose a potential sale. Many of these guys, or the general consensus is they don't want to record their consultations. I don't like that.
Well, I think they don't understand the idea that if you have a consistent message to go along with your consistent results, then there's no danger. And that's the thing is, when I was a consultant, I had a pretty damn consistent message with regards to my opinion on things, with regards to the facts of the procedures that I was working with at the time, as I understood them, and it was it was good to know. I mean, I've thought about this many times throughout my career, and I think back on things I may have said and interactions I've had, and I've always felt pretty good in the idea, in the knowledge that I've been consistent with my message. And I think that if clinics can incorporate a consistent message in their delivery, in their message during consultations when they're dealing with patients, then they don't need to worry about it.
Well, they shouldn't worry about it. And the fact of the matter is, I live my life like I'm being recorded at all times anyway.
Yeah, I know you do.
Like if I go to order food, it's very possible that someone is going to have a recording device. I will not say or do anything that I believe will put my reputation or my name in jeopardy if someone posts it online.
And you always have to make sure you show up to the drive-in wearing pants.
Absolutely. But that is the reality that I see in today's world.
Yeah.
Every doctor, every consultant, everyone should think the same way. And they don't. And we've known consultants who have gotten into a shitload of had to do a lot of bullshit online because they trusted somebody on a telephone call, and that particular person recorded that telephone call. And it's happened to doctors. And it's happened, the shit that I've heard, the recordings that I have heard, and this isn't, I'm not just doing this to illustrate or to falsely illustrate a point. There's one recording that I heard not too long ago. It's a doctor that, let's just say that at one point this doctor was working in the UK. And it was just unbelievable what this particular guy was saying to a patient. I couldn't believe my ears. And I think the bottom line is if physicians really understood, like you said, that all they have to do, you may lose that sale that one time or two times, but in the end, you're going to be much better off losing that sale and just giving people full disclosure, all the information that they need. everything that they need to walk away with in a recorded version so that they know that, you know what, I did say this during the consultation. I did warn you about this. I gave you all the information about finasteride and possible complications and side effects. You can't go online and bash my reputation because we have the facts right here. That is now it's defamation. And it also gives, I think, a prospective patient, the ability to go back because you're like, oh, Jesus, I'm losing my hair. I want to get a hair transplant. And all I want to do is get fixed. You're hearing what you want to hear. You're going to miss a lot. So having that recording to go back on and listen to, it may put you in a position of, I think it's empowering. You may be like, you know what? Yeah, I don't like what he said there. That makes me feel uncomfortable. I guess there's a possibility of this complication. I don't want to do it. Yeah.
It can actually encourage patients to call back to learn more if they don't understand something that they're listening to on the recording.
I think the way most of these guys run their practice is everything. I actually I spoke at this conference last year, and we were going over some data that we had through the American Hair Loss Association. I provided some stats, and really the message was that there is a subconscious equation that is kind of being formulated in a prospective patient's mind during every aspect of their experience in your clinic. And that means from initial contact, whether it's online or through the phone, to walking through that door, contact with your front desk person, contact with the consultant, contact with you. Every aspect creates this subconscious equation. Now, if they decide to have surgery and all goes well, if all the other stuff wasn't so great, you're fine. But if there's anything that's even slightly off in their mind, all of a sudden, all the negatives start to add up.
Yeah.
And even if it's a normal experience and a very good but not an expected outcome, it's possible that they will go online and try to destroy your reputation. So I'm a believer of recording everything and to do everything correctly. Soup to nuts. You make that phone call, you speak to your patient, you answer their questions, you honestly, you take time, you have empathy, great. It's online, someone contacts you online, you get back to them right away. You make sure their experience is incredible.
Well, and that's a whole other animal altogether is response times and making sure that there isn't any room for negative opinions to creep in.
And misinterpretation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that hurts the patient.
It shouldn't be such a big issue. Sorry to cut you off. It shouldn't be a big issue simply because every time you call customer service, this call may be monitored for quality assurance. Let me tell you something. It is monitored.
Right.
It is recorded.
Right.
Every damn one of them. And what's the problem with that? So it's the same, incorporate that in your practice. It's actually, I think it would be liberating, if anything.
It would be, actually. But it's a weird thing, man. It's a weird thing with physicians. Like I said, you speak to them, and then all of a sudden it's like they have to have a meeting to have a meeting. They have to have a meeting to meet about having a meeting.
You think it's that organized?
I've never experienced the bureaucracy that's involved in every aspect of medicine and this field of medicine, and even within their own practices. There are a few guys who aren't like that. We had Steve Gable on the show and talk about him. He takes care of his stuff. He does the consultations. Great. It's kind of run like a kind of an old school doctor's office, which is fine. Scott Alexander is very much the same. But I just think it's in the patient's best interest so that they can't be psychologically screwed up by something that they misheard or didn't quite understand or weren't quite aware of because they were listening to something else or thinking about something else during the consultation, just for their benefit, to be able to say, you know what, here's a copy of your consultation. When you go home, when you have time, listen to it. And if you have any more questions, feel free to contact us.
Yeah.
Simple as that. When we open up our clinic, that's what we're going to do, Joe.
I've already got the template laid out.
Yeah. There you go. That would be something.
Anyway.
You know how people would be pissed.
Who? People? Yeah. Yeah. I can't. Oh God, I can't imagine. I can imagine the phone calls, the emails, the picketing, the sabotage.
Well, the sabotage would be great, but that's absolutely something that you can control. I mean, let's face it. I mean, these docs are, they don't
be easy to control.
Yeah, they don't have much control of their online world, unfortunately, which they should. I try to give, and again, another thing, try to empower physicians with the ability to control their own online presence, and it's like you can't help them. Some guys are really good at it, but the average guy isn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say the average guy. I'd say most guys aren't.
Right.
Most aren't. Some are, and in between, there's a huge gap that of the ether that I just don't understand how some of these clinics even operate.
And you know what I think is a good idea to do? Let's support a website or whatever where I can actually have my reputation destroyed. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Or favorites can be played, talking about how one clinic is so much better than the other.
Exactly.
By the purveyors of that website.
Right. I think that's a smart idea. Let's be a part of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I could go off, but no, I'm holding back.
Yeah. All I can say is this: hair transplant surgery is real surgery. Everyone has to understand that. It is life-changing. You look at a guy like Joe Tillman, you look at his hair. If you met him on the street, you would have no idea that he's had a hair transplant, let alone 9 hair transplants. He's a guy who is in his mid-40s, going on the other side of his mid-40s at this point. And
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, who looks like he has a full head of hair for the most part. If you look closely, you can see some thinning in the crown. But basically, for a man his age, you would think that he's just going through the initial stages of hair loss, really just in the back. So it's pretty amazing. The guy was a Norwood 6, never coming back. That was it. Bad plug. So we know that surgical hair restoration is life-changing if you're the right candidate, make the right decisions. The problem is most people don't make the right decisions. Most people will read some in-flight magazine or see some guy dressed in a nice suit with a nice handkerchief holding a pair of glasses in the voted best doc in whatever Los Angeles when they weren't voted. They paid for that. That's an ad. That's all that it is. I have been offered, I'm not a doctor, top doc awards. I was offered the Michelangelo Award by the Italian Society of Hair Restoration Surgeons. I could have gone there and I could have picked it up. I was invited to go to the ceremony. And you'll see that listed on these doctors' websites. It's fucking ridiculous.
The moment I get an offer like that, I'm taking it.
Well, you know what's funny? I was actually a little naive at the time, and this was early on in my career. I would say I was about 3 years in. And I had to write them. I said, you know that I'm not a physician. And they were really embarrassed. But this is one award that a lot of doctors in this field have listed as one of their awards. It's called the Michelangelo Award. It was given to me, Spencer Kobren, who's not a doctor.
Well, it's not like you don't deserve it.
Well, that's true. I was also offered, this company will sue me, so I don't want to say who it was. But I was also offered a Top Doc Award from an extremely well-known company that claims that doctors who get this award, which you actually have a choice of different plaques, by the way, that you have to pay for, it was an award based on recommendations and a kind of voting process of their peers. Well, unless Joe and Specs voted for me, I don't know how many other peers I have in this industry.
Found out.
Yeah. So when you're looking at Top Docs awards, when you're looking at websites that have like Top Doc stuff, and that's the first thing you see on somebody's website, they paid for it, man. That's just the way that it is. Just recognize that. Doesn't mean they're not a Top Doc. It just means that they felt pressured to do so. It's all bullshit.
All of it.
I should just drop the mic on that. It's all bullshit.
Well, you could, or we could set up our own Top Doc type of recommendation service.
Well, in a sense, I actually have, but at least our guys are really top docs.
It's not even in the same sense, not even remotely.
No, but the point being is that these guys are collecting checks. I got a choice of different plaques, different color schemes. I can get an acrylic thing for my desk. I am not a doctor.
It's amazing. It's amazing that
I told you I'm going to get the next one. I am going to do it. I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to have it on the desk right here for everyone to see. I will post it on Facebook to say how humbled and how honored I am to have received this Top Doc award, like all these other guys do.
From the esteemed organization.
Right. All right, guys. On that note, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of emails tonight and tomorrow about this. But look, we're here to tell the truth. And the doctors who are part of the IHRS support that truth. So at the very least, understand that aspect of things. That while I support them, and obviously Joe does as well, and some other real experts in the field know that these guys are providing consistent results, as important as that is, they support the truth. And that says a lot. Because most guys out there don't. And they're pissed off that we are doing what we do. On that note, the website's thebaldtruth.com to see archived versions of this broadcast, or archives of this broadcast, not versions. It's the broadcasts that are archived. They're recorded. They're saved for you guys to watch again at your leisure. That's thebaldtruth.com. Also, guysfromqueens.com. Check out our show on Guys from Queens. Obviously, they syndicate the program for us across the internet. They also syndicate through their channel on iHeartRadio, which is pretty amazing that they have their own channel on iHeart. So good for you, Andrew Zarian. You could also check us out on Roku. We were voted one of the 15 craziest channels on Roku about a year ago. And I don't think it's crazy, but they think that the hair loss thing is crazy. So we got that award. That was a real award.
I like the real ones.
That's a real one. Also, American Hair Loss Association is AmericanHairLoss.org. Now, there are going to be some changes on a lot of sites that I'm talking about now. You'll see them soon. So I'm excited about that. Hair Transplant Mentor. That is Joe Tillman's site, the original Hair Transplant Mentor. That's hairtransplantmentor.com. You can contact Joe directly if you have any questions or if you have complaints. He's the guy, basically, that you want to contact. And, anyone who's new to the show and wants to see Joe's journey, and let me tell you, it was a hell of a journey.
It was.
Guy was effed up. And you can see him now. Handsome Joe, we call him in the industry, by the way. It's a pretty. I just made that up. Isn't that good? It
was good.
It's a pretty miraculous transformation. It really
sounds like a 1930s boxer.
Yeah,
Handsome Joe.
Handsome Joe.
See here.
It really illustrates, in my view, what surgical hair restoration, hair transplantation can do for a person. If they go to the right doctors and they are the right candidates. It's absolutely life-changing. Again, Joe's hair looks 100% natural. That is not some bullshit ad. Again, I said, I cursed. That you see,
doomed.
You see on the internet. You can see him online. You can see him right here if you're watching the broadcast. As good as his hair looks on camera, it looks as thick in person. And he's not even, I mean, you could actually put a hair light on like I do, and it wouldn't be see-through. Yeah, well, next time. We'll figure it out. All right, guys, until next week, I want to thank you for listening. And until next week, be strong. God bless. And again, thank you so much for listening. It's always great to be live here and to help you guys out. And again, we're trying to do the show every week, Tuesday nights at the same time. So it's a call-in show. Again, we don't have to do this live. So if you want to speak to us live, call us on Tuesday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.